Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Thursday, the 14th of June, 2012. Tucson and the rest of southern Arizona are known for their abundance of talented artists who cover a wide spectrum of interesting areas. And tonight we'll tell you about one of these residents. He's the man behind the Mat Bevel Institute Museum of Kinetic Art. It is celebrating its 25th anniversary, although the busy artist really wasn't keeping track of the passing time. Luis Carrion has that story.
Well, my name's Ned Schaper, aka Mat Bevel, and we're at the Mat Bevel Institute, the Museum of Kinetic Art. This is sort of the home base for the Museum of Kinetic Art and Bevel Butterfly Company. Mainly what I do is I found out years ago that I was actually supposed to take lost objects that found their way to my door and give them a new life in theater. And by doing that, all this magic happens to me. So I just keep doing that and keep letting the magic happen. The problem is the magic hasn't brought me hasn't brought the ship into Tucson, the financial ship. It's sort of a classic nonsensical machine, but it works in that it really works. You know, in a big way, what I do is I just do what I feel impelled to do every day. I mean, I see these things, now I have all these objects that seem to be coming together and stuff. I tend to make things or take things out into public that seem to be a little bit beyond my reach, like risky. I tend to want to do things to show people that you can just do things, and that's a lot of what this is. One thing about learning about bearings is you realize that you don't always have to have roller bearings. Really, the idea is to just implement action. For years, I did my own performances in this space, built my sculptures, but I would rent it out for events and stuff too. But these days, it's mainly just Mat Bevel productions and sort of putting together the content for the website and for internet TV, so I can get the Mat Bevel experience out to the world, which is really my goal. The thing is regular television, there was always this problem. I had all these characters. I really didn't know I was in theater. The junk kept going on my head. And, you know, so you're trying to deny the fact that you're doing theater, but next thing you know, you're doing theater. Strangers in the night. I never could figure out all these characters coming together. Like, is this some big piece? The idea is I realized sort of what I'm doing is non-linear theater. I mean, I have all these characters, but I realized that they could go in many different orders, and sometimes you want to see a little part of one guy's thing and a part of another. I had no idea I was going to do any of this. You know, I mean, if you look at it, it's just the junk people brought me. Matter of fact, I never collected junk, and I didn't even know how to use tools. I had to figure out how to use like a drill, believe it or not, when I first started this. To me, it's not so much about making art as it is that I'm just sort of a scientist. I sort of make things to see what the reaction is. So everything will be working, okay? Well, maybe I'll just do that now, so. All right, there we go, yeah. The most important thing in life is finding your purpose. Well, you find your purpose when you're quiet and you just end up doing the thing you really enjoy doing. I mean, my firm belief is that when you do something and you feel like you can't stop doing it, I have a degree in entomology, so I can sort of say this, but that's sort of chemically the feeling the ant would have when he does what he's supposed to do. So you're really just supposed to do what you're supposed to do. You don't have to know why you're doing what you do.
A decade before the Museum of Kinetic Art was establishing its roots in our city, other residents had started the Tucson Jazz Society of Tucson, which has grown into one of the largest of these groups in the country. Caitlin Harrington has that interview, followed by a performance from 3 of its members.
Joining me in the studio today is Pete Swan. He is the Vice President of the Tucson Jazz Society. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much for asking me to come.
Can we first start with talking about the Tucson Jazz Society? Can you tell our audience a little bit about your mission statement?
The mission of the Tucson Jazz Society is to promote and educate and encourage the appreciation and understanding of jazz in the Tucson community.
And the Tucson Jazz Society has had a lot of really exciting events in the previous months and coming up as well. Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. We've had a really successful New Year's Eve series that we've been fortunate enough to partner with Rick Braun. We've got another one coming up in this New Year's Eve with Rick Braun and Peter White and Richard Elliott. We have two concerts coming up at Lowe's Ventana. Next one with Jeff Lorber and Gabriel Mark Hasselback on July 7th. And then we had this last fall 4 sold-out concerts at Tohono Chul with basically local artists. And so we're excited about doing that again this fall.
And Pete, you're involved in 2 bands yourself, the Big Band Express and the Pete Swan Trio. Can you talk to us about some of your events coming up?
Well, I'm very fortunate. There's lots of things going on in Tucson, and not just things I'm doing, but the Big Band Express has a job on June 18th coming up at the Gaslight featuring Angel Diamond on vocals. And then I have, I'm playing 3 nights with the trio. Friday nights at Florizona Grill, and Saturday and Sunday at the Old Pueblo Grill on 60 North Alvernon. And people can find that at my website, peteswan.com.
And can you talk to us about some of your bandmates with the Pete Swan Trio? You do have kind of an interesting threesome, right?
Well, the 2 gentlemen playing with me today, one of them is Scott Black, one of my best friends and musical comrades. We've been playing together for a long time. And he's also one of the founders of the Tucson Jazz Institute, which has been gotten national acclaim for their educational program for young people. The piano player on Saturday night is a young man, Grant Cherry, that plays in the Ellington Band. And he just won some awards recently at the Essentially Ellington competition in New York. But he started coming into my Sunday night concert and jam session when he was about 12 years old. He's 16 now. He just sounds amazing. So it's really a fun group.
Pete, jazz has been something that's been a part of your life for a long time. You said you used to be a music instructor as well. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of talk to us about where your interest in jazz came from and how it's evolved over the last couple of years?
Sure, I'll try. It was one of those things where nobody in my family was a musician, but we had a couple of jazz records when I was growing up, and really I used to make drumsticks out of Tinker Toys and start playing on the rug. But I just found that there was something about jazz and the spirit of improvisation, the wide range of emotions in the music and subtlety that just has always drawn me to it. And so I just feel really fortunate to continue to keep playing jazz and to help other people appreciate it and also teach young people to enjoy it.
And we talked prior to the interview about the member of your band, Grant, and how he's a 16-year-old. Do you find that it's rare that young people in the Tucson community get involved with jazz music?
We're pretty fortunate because of organizations like the Tucson Jazz Institute, and prior to that, JazzWorks, and then some of the local high school programs. There's a lot of ways for young people to get involved with improvisation and learning about jazz music. So we're trying to make that more kids all the time. But in some ways it's kind of rare, but it's becoming more prevalent all the time. And Tucson, for its size, is turning out some of the most talented musicians anywhere in the country. So it's disproportionate how much impact, in some ways, Tucson is starting to have on the national music scene.
We will get a chance to see a performance by the Pete Swan Trio after this interview. Can you talk to us a little bit about the piece that you'll be playing and where the inspiration comes from that?
Sure, thanks. The tune we're playing is one called Kelly's Blues, and we often play it on Saturday night to open up the night. But it was a tune that was made famous by the great pianist Oscar Peterson. And we use it as an opportunity for Grant to show off, and it's a great blues tune.
Thank you for joining me, Pete.
Thank you.
And now here's the Pete Swan Trio performing Kelly's Blues.
Members of Tucson's African American community and other residents are getting ready for the 42nd Annual Juneteenth Festival this Saturday. Joining us are two guests to tell us more about the special celebration. Sister Sharif is the committee chair, and her husband, Imam Sidney Sharif, will be a lecturer during the activities. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Let's begin with you, Imam Sharif. If you could tell us a little bit about what Juneteenth is all about, how this all began.
Yes, sir. It began many years ago when the Emancipation Proclamation was presented by the president at the time. And of course, the people who were enslaved did not know anything about this at the time the proclamation was made. They didn't find out about it in a certain part of Texas until around 1865. And as a result, they found out that they were free, and they began to celebrate on that particular time, the day of Juneteenth. They call it Juneteenth celebration. So this is why we're celebrating now, and it's a national and international celebration where people discovered, by proclamation a couple of years later that they were free. And of course, we think that this is a significant part of American history that everyone should be aware of, and they should see themselves as a part of this history also as American citizens.
Perfect. And Sister Sharif, so what about the celebration here in Tucson, celebrating its 42nd annual event? What's going to be happening this Saturday?
Oh, we have a lot of great things that's happening this Saturday. First of all, this is the second year that we transitioned over to the Donna Ligon Center, which is formerly known as the Northwest Center. And so we're doing something totally different, which is we have indoor activities as well as outdoor activities. But most of the activities focus indoor, which we are excited about a kids zone, which will focus on literacy. We will have an African-American puppet show, which will depict the Underground Railroad. And this is co-sponsored by the Quincy Douglas Library. We also will have free face painting. We will have free book giveaways and other giveaways in the kids zone. Secondly, we're excited about the health fair and health resource fair. We have close to 20 tables that's been rented from various of organizations, not-for-profit organizations, La Frontera, Marana Health Clinic, the Pima Health Department, Planned Parenthood, and so many more. And basically, we would do many health screening as well as distribute information on mental health, distribute information on other health issues that plague the African-American community and others.
Okay, great. And Imam Sharif, if you could tell me a little bit about why you think that it is important for people in general to not only learn about Juneteenth, but other significant historical events in United States history.
Yes, sir. Every American should have some idea or some genuine interest in their history, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or nationality. They should have an idea of what they have gone through in the past as a people and where they are now here in America, and how our relationships as a single nation can begin to really appreciate its value. History is something that children should know about. They should know about their grandparents, their great-great-grandparents, and how did they happen to get here in the first place, and how do we go from where we are now to where we really want to be. So I said that history is very important. So this, while it's a celebration, it's also affirming the real need for Americans, citizens, to become aware of who they are, how they came to be Americans, and learn to appreciate each other for their uniqueness.
And Sister, so we were talking about how education is a component of this festival. The theme, I guess, is called Honoring Our Past and Enlightening Our Future.
Right. And that's combined with what Imam Sharif was just talking about, is that in order for you to appreciate your future, you have to honor the past. So we're honoring the past of many hard, long years of work and preparation for the 41 years Juneteenth. So what we're doing this year is honoring our past to acknowledge people who have made Juneteenth a success for over 40 years, as well as enlightening our future. And we'll do that through the educational, informational lectures that Imam Sharif will be giving a Juneteenth lecture, as well as we will have African American history two exhibits, which is a very, very important component of the educational piece, because then you get the chance to see how African Americans were enslaved and shackled, and pictures that depict lynching. And so that's very important for us to reflect on, so that we will know from which we come and where we're going.
And of course, as we move forward as a society, Imam Sharif, one of the other things that's going to be happening is getting people registered to vote and participate in the electoral process. Why do you feel this is important as we move into the future?
This is significantly important because everyone needs to know that they are important and that they have a right to have a voice, and that voice should be heard. You know, we as Americans have been suppressed in our spiritual willingness to want to come forward and open our mouths. Voting gives us an opportunity to do that.
Okay, great. Time and location, once again, before we go.
The Donna Liggins Center, 2160 North 6th Avenue, is just south of Grant and 6th Avenue, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and it's free. And from 11 to 12, we will be giving away free hot dogs.
Okay, so it is free and open to everybody in the community?
Open to everyone in the community.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you.
Well, thank you.
An increasing number of communities around the world are paying closer attention to the preservation of their past as they prepare for the future. But in many places, different forces have demolished historical sites to pave the way for new developments. Tonight, Damian Klinko gives us an example from Midtown Tucson. Klinko is the president of the Tucson Historic Preservation Foundation, and he joins us Thursday nights with this segment.
On Broadway Boulevard, between Country Club and Alvernon, once stood one of Tucson's most famous and loved hotels. The grand Mission Revival El Conquistador, designed by Tucson's first woman architect, Annie Rockefeller, was built in the Roaring '20s. The rambling facade, glistening swimming pool, large ballroom, and stylish restaurant hosted Tucson's social set. When the hotel was built, the city was expanding eastward, an evolution made possible by the increased numbers of privately owned automobiles. Before the Model T, Tucson's visitors were limited to accommodations within close proximity to the two train depots. During the 1920s, Tucson leaders guided the transformation of the sleepy territorial adobe village into a burgeoning city. Tucson's building program embraced early 20th century revival buildings with an emphasis on Mission Revival, an architectural trend deemed appropriate for the American West. The movement was popularized by the Panama, California exhibition of 1915 and 1916, which resulted in the construction of Balboa Park in San Diego. The romantic building program resulted in some of Tucson's most loved and iconic buildings, including Safford Middle School, the Pima County Courthouse, the Pioneer Hotel, and the recently restored Roy Place building. The El Conquistador opened in November 22, 1928, across from the Municipal Park and Golf Course, and featured a long horizontal profile with an opulent case-cast stone entry, copper dome tower, red terracotta mission tiles, and pink soft stucco finish. Wonderful and distinguished neighborhoods arose under the shadow of the Grand Hotel. El Encanto and Colonial Solanas to the west, and El Montevideo and San Clemente to the east. These neighborhoods attracted influential business owners and city leaders. The Great Depression, competition, and changing American tastes all led to the slow decline of the magnificent hotel in later decades. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, as Tucson's downtown began to change, the east end of the hotel property was developed into an outdoor shopping center, a modernist creation of glass, block, and steel, the El Con Mall. This emporium continued to expand and grow. A west wing designed by Nicholas Keller was added. For a short time, the hotel and mall stood side by side. In the late 1960s, the mall was expanded westward. In the pressure to develop the property, the hotel lost its struggle to survive and was unceremoniously demolished in 1967. In its stead, a large Levy's local department store was constructed. For a short time, the mall housed many of Tucson's beloved retail shops like Seal Peterson and Grunwald and Adams Jewelers. But by the 1980s, new malls were opening and El Con was perceived as outdated and passé. One by one, stores closed or moved. The mall languished for decades, until the late 1990s and early 2000s. Rather than embrace the modernist qualities of this sleek shopping center and the use of awesome mid-century design as a cornerstone of redevelopment, the owners reconceived the commercial potential of the property by hosting every possible big box store and fast food restaurant. The once regal property is now home to a smattering of generic low-priced franchises. Over the last decade, the mall has been slowly knocked down, its shiny terrazzo floor broken apart, and now plans call for the final demolition of the white columns and clear-story windows. Perhaps the most appalling, imminent change is on the site of the El Conquistador Hotel itself, a hotel that captured Tucson's imagination, shone as a beacon of her future, which inspired the development of some of Tucson's most outstanding historic districts and opulent residential architecture. What has been proposed is a 24-hour Walmart. What does that say about our city, our values, and our future?
Now we are joined by Michael Chihak in his Thursday night commentary.
We're struggling as a nation to keep our economy upright and moving forward, and there's no lack of ideas for how to do it. One that comes to mind is the long-voiced opinion that if government just got off the backs of businesses, everything would be fine. So to get to the bottom of it, I used Google search on my computer, typing in this phrase, "What businesses want from government?" That provided just the answers we as a nation have been looking for. The top item was titled, quote, "Businesses want government out of the way." Great idea. The next item said, quote, "Businesses want government investment in clean energy." So while it's out of the way, the government should invest. Moving along, I found this. Businesses want the government to resolve major healthcare issues. Sure, and we all want paid-for villas in Tuscany for the summer. This Google search, by the way, produced more than 1 billion results, so I figured there must be a pony somewhere in such a pile of manure. Here are a few more from the pile. Quote, "Businesses want more stability and less complexity out of government." Stability? In a system that allows a change in players every couple of years, subject to the whims of the average American voter? Then there was, quote, "Business owners tell Obama they want more government contracts." That's before they get out of the way, of course. And one more, quote, "Businesses don't want anything to do with the government." Just try telling that to the IRS, or, for that matter, those businesses wanting government contracts. There's no logical conclusion to this exercise, of course, except, perhaps, that it serves as a metaphor for the exercise of trying to select a president or any other elected official based on what we think he or she can do for the economy and business, which in a free market isn't nearly as much as any of us think it is.
Arizona Week, Fridays at 8:30 on PBS HD, Channel 6.
Coming up tomorrow night, Jim Ninsel joins us on the Arizona Illustrated Political Roundtable with the latest developments following the election of Ron Barber in Congressional District 8. as well as other important issues that may affect your life in our state. I'm Tony Paniagua from all of us at Arizona Public Media. Have a great night.